Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at what is possibly the best 2-bay NAS on the market right now for you prosumers out there. This is the ASUSTOR Lockerstor 2. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at ASUSTOR's new Lockerstor 2. Now this is a fantastic piece of kit with pretty much all of the recent hardware innovations all tucked into one nice little box, which bizarrely is a NAS, but it also thinks it's a PC. A little bit more on that later on as we get into the unboxing. So what we'll be doing on today's video, we're going through the packaging, the hardware itself. We'll take a quick look at the ADM software, which is ASUSTOR's own desktop management interface, and also going through some of the benefits that this model has, which basically allows you to have it as a NAS unit, but also as a entertainment PC, or for using virtual machines and all those kinds of cool things. So first of all, packaging wise, as you can see, this is really nice retail packaging. Got the ASUSTOR logo on there, and as you can see, it's the Lockerstor 2. The model number is the AS6602T. And if you want to find out more, there will be links in the video description for Amazon, etc. So you can take a look at local prices, etc, etc. At the moment, this retails in the UK anywhere between the £400 and around about £450 mark. Now this comes as a bare unit. There's no drives included with this, so you will need to budget into that as well, also for obviously storage, both for hard disk drives and also SSDs. Yep, that's right, this has also got the ability to store SSDs into the unit to speed up caching or to use as actual extra storage space. Fantastic. So looking at the front of the box, we've got some more information about what's actually in there. So this actually features the Intel Celeron J4125 quad-core processor. Now this is a 2 GHz chip, which boosts up to 2.7 GHz on all 4 cores when necessary. Also, it comes included with 3 USB 3.2 ports on there for backups or for connecting additional peripherals. It has 2 M.2 bays, which we'll be taking a look at later. Also supports HDMI out, and that is 4K 60Hz. So this in itself can be a monster media machine. It also has two 2.5 gigabits per second LAN connections, and that can be combined with Link Aggregation to up to 5 gigabits per second LAN speeds, which is absolutely phenomenal. And best of all, it comes with a 3-year warranty. On the side of the box, the sticker gives you a little bit more information about the technical specifications, so I'll give you a quick look at that. And on the other side of the box, we've got some more features which it supports. So it's got the ASUSTOR Data Master, lifestyle applications, business applications, and also surveillance applications. So this is pretty much a all-in-one unit. Whether you want to connect up surveillance cameras, whether you want to use it for entertainment purposes, or whether you want to use it in a mission-critical business environment, this box has got all those bases covered, and at what is relatively reasonable price. Also, this is fully cross-platform compatible, so basically anywhere there's a web browser you can gain access, and also there is software available for Windows, Mac, and Linux users. Also, for those of you with mobile devices such as iPhones or Android devices, you can also get an app, a companion app, and you can get that by visiting either the Apple Store or the Play Store. So let's take a look and see what we actually get inside the packaging. Now when you open it up, first of all, on the top we've got some really handy QR codes there, so you can get started straight away by scanning those with a compatible device and get straight into the hardware. Once we open up the packaging, you get the actual unit itself, and as you can see, this is a really cool looking unit. It's really nice lines on there, so if you're going to have it desktop mounted, absolutely no problem at all. It looks great on a desktop, but also as well, it's all pretty much metal finished as well, which for some people may be a benefit. Obviously for cooling purposes, having a pretty much all metal construction actually aids cooling, but the slight downside of that is maybe with some drives you may get a little bit of vibration coming through. But I'm happy to tell you that with the drives that I've got installed in there currently, which are even slightly older drives and some of them 7200 RPM drives, the noise is very, very minimal. And in fact, the loudest thing on there is the fan, and that itself is pretty quiet, especially in comparison with some of the other NAS drives I've tested. So let's take a look at the accessories in the accessories box. So you can basically get set up straight away out of the box, obviously apart from storage. So you get a 3-pin kettle lead, a separate 65-watt power pack, some mounting hardware, some drive screws, some larger drive screws, a pair of Cat5e cables, and a quick install guide, again with that QR code on the back so you can get up and running on your mobile device straight away. So let's take a quick tour around the NAS itself. So as you can see, pretty nice looking unit. This is a 2-bay unit, but effectively it's a 2+2 bay because we've got additional storage inside for M.2 drives, which we'll take a look when we take the sides off. But looking at the front panel, so we've got a power button on the front, nice clicky power button. Also, you've got some information LEDs there for power and activity, that kind of thing. Moving down towards the bottom, we've got a USB 3 port, and this is designed for backup purposes. So you can just get a USB port, plug it in, and press the copy button, which is this one here, and that will copy whatever's on the stick into your specified folders. All of that can be configured within the ADM interface. Also, it works another way, so you can actually have it so that when you plug a device in, say for instance a large storage device, 4 or 8 terabyte USB drive, you can press the button and it will actually do a snapshot of the NAS itself, so you can back it up onto another drive and keep it perhaps off-site. Next up, we've got the drive caddies themselves. Now these caddies are spring-loaded and actually metal construction as well, so they're really nice. And also there's activity lights on both trays as well, so you can see what's going on, whether it's powered up and active, and whether there's data transfer in. And at the bottom there, you've got the Lockerstor logo. To remove a drive from the unit, all you do is press the button at the bottom, and it springs out, and you can just pull the disc out yourself. So as you can see, there is a metal construction there, which is really nice. And you have got the option of installing 3.5-inch drives or 2.5-inch drives if you want to. Maybe an SSD or maybe an older laptop style drive. All of those are options. The drives themselves can actually be locked into position as well. There's a little lock screw there. So if you don't want someone accidentally removing one of these, then you can just turn the screw 90 degrees and it will lock it in place. Taking the drives out is really nice and simple, and in here we've got a mismatch of drives, but luckily due to the way that we can configure this, it isn't a problem at all. Looking inside the unit, which hopefully I'll get you some better angles of, you can just about make out on the side the chipset, the Intel processor and the heatsink on it, and pretty much all of the interior of this again is all metal. Moving around to the bottom of the unit, we've got 4 rubberized feet for keeping it steady on desktop surfaces. And moving around to the rear of the unit, we've got the cooling fan, which draws cold air in through the front, through the drive bays, and then exhausts it from the rear, keeping things nice and cool. At the top, we've got our HDMI connection, so that is HDMI 2.0A, which supports up to 4K 60Hz displays. Obviously, if you want to, you can plug in a 1080p screen or other variants of that, depending on what you're going to do. Now, for me personally, I'm probably going to put this in the front room and use it as a media consumption device, but also with the options of running my security cameras and also backing up some of my other PCs. Next up, we've got a pair of USB 3.2 ports, and then we've got our two 2.5 gigabits per second LAN ports. Again, these will work in conjunction with each other with link aggregation to give you up to 5 gigabits per second transfer speeds, but you will need network hardware capable of actually supporting those speeds. And also if you're using this with a PC or a laptop, again, those will need to support those kind of transfer speeds to be able to get the full speed out of it. And speed wise, you should be able to get, on a good day with the wind on your side, you should be able to get around about 580 megabytes per second with the perfect conditions. Realistically, for most people, it's going to depend on your network connectivity and also the drives you're using both in the machine and also on your device. Underneath that, we've got a small reset button and also our power jack. And next to that, for those of you who are a little bit more security conscious, there is a Kensington lock slot. So next up, I'm going to take it apart and show you actually some of the interior parts and also the M.2 mounting bays. Now, taking it apart is really simple. There's only 3 screws, so one here, and one here. So I'm going to quickly remove those now. So now with the outer shell removed, you can see a little bit closer inside what is going on. And actually with the shell off, I can quickly show you there is actually a little bit of added ventilation on this side section, which again will pull in some fresh air. There isn't any filtration or anything on there, but realistically you shouldn't really need it. It doesn't drag in a great deal of air. So looking at the unit itself, on this side, just the metal chassis, and you can just about make out the cooling fan on the side there. Moving up to the top section, we've got our M.2 bay. So at the moment, as you can see, I've got a silicon power drive installed, and this is currently set up with the configuration of having the 2 hard drives in a mirrored RAID. That is set up to be roughly about 2 terabytes. One drive is 2 terabytes, one drive is 3 terabytes. So ideally they could do a bit of matched drives, but certainly gets the job done. So that is volume 1. Volume 2 is set up as a single drive, which is just this one. So that's a terabyte of SSD NVMe storage. So in this particular configuration, I'm setting up as this as being the mission critical information on there, such as PC backups, that kind of thing. But for media consumption, watching files, and also for virtual machines and that kind of thing, that will be going onto the faster drive. So that's going to speed up the system overall, and also those kind of files don't really need to be backed up. But obviously, if you wanted to, you can do. There is another slot actually on the back of this card, so if you wanted to put 2 drives in and also put those into some form of RAID, you can do if you see fit. That's the beauty about this system. It effectively is a 4-bay system, although it doesn't support RAID 5, so these 2 drives cannot be kind of made into a RAID with those 2 drives. They are separate entities, but certainly you can use this for SSD caching if you want to speed up transfers on those. There's various options available too, and again, it's going to come down to your own personal preferences. The M.2 drive sled is actually quite easily removable, so if you want to remove the drive itself, just 1 screw on the top. If you want to remove this section entirely to put another drive on the back, then just remove those 2 screws, and that pulls out of the PCI Express slot on the motherboard. This unit actually comes with 4 GB of RAM installed already, which is DDR4 2400, which 4 GB is actually quite a lot for a NAS drive. Generally they tend to come with either 1 or 2 gigs, so for ASUSTOR to actually provide this straight out of the box with 4 gigs is absolutely brilliant. But you can, if you want to, you can update that to 8 gigs very easily. There's a little protective flap there, and there's access to the memory slot, so you can put in another 4 gigs and boost the speeds. One nice thing as well also, which is slightly unusual, is you can actually pretty much put any RAM you want in there. With other manufacturers, they often specify that you must use their own certified sticks, but certainly ASUSTOR don't have any limitations, and you're more than welcome to put in various different brands. I'll put some links to those in the video description, so if you do plan on getting one of these and you want to add some more RAM to it, then I'll give you some really good options. If you do need to change out the original 4 gigs which are in there, if you want to install a matched pair for instance, that is a little bit more difficult. It's quite tricky to get to and does involve quite a lot of disassembly. You can do it. There's screws there, and there, and you can pull out most of the motherboard to gain access to the internal components. Obviously, your skill levels may vary. Certainly, I would recommend just installing an additional 4 gigs. So I think that pretty much is a pretty good introduction to the actual hardware itself. Let's get it put back together, get it fired up, and I'll show you the ADM on screen, both from the native 4K display from here onto a monitor, and also via a web browser. Okay, so we've got the unit set back up, all powered up, very simple to do, and also I'm using my Logitech K400 wireless keyboard. The USB is plugged into the back of the machine. We're currently connected up on HDMI over a 1080p connection to our Illumina monitor, and we've got 1 single gigabit Ethernet connection connected. So I've just pressed the power button a few seconds before we started recording, and as you can see, it's going through the actual startup process. When the green light is flashing on the front there, that means that the unit is getting ready, and we're now getting a display onto the screen. It does take a little while to boot up, as do most NAS devices. So yeah, it's not one of those instant on devices by any means. Hopefully, for those of you that are possibly listening on headphones, you can maybe pick up some of the noise of this, including the system beeps. It's actually really quiet. I can just about make out the sound of the hard drives, and the fan on the back is very, very quiet indeed. You can actually configure the fan in the operating system, make any changes you see fit, so you can have it to high speed, low speed, auto, etc, etc. But for me, out of the box performance has been absolutely fantastic and is so quiet. So I'm recording this actually through OBS as well onto my PC, so some of this I'll show you full screen, other bits I'll just point out as we're going through it. But this is the main loading screen. Now you can, if you want to, you can go into the settings, configure this, so if for instance you've maybe got it in a front room situation and you want it just to go straight into something like Amazon Prime Video, which you can add as a application or a shortcut. This effectively is a kind of a version of Chromium which is running on here, a kind of a Linux stroke Chromium crossover. So you can make configuration changes to it, but this essentially is your main screen. So you've got the ASUSTOR media, gives you the time and date. You've got options in the top here for, make sure I turn the keyboard on. You've got options for turning the device on and off. So if you click on the power button at the top, you've got the option for, you can either exit, you can shut down, you can go into sleep mode. Now this does actually support Wake on LAN and actually Wake on WAN as well. So perhaps if you've got this on your mobile device and you're using it outside of the house, you can actually have the unit go to sleep during the time that it's not in use and then it'll wake up when a request is made, which I think is a fantastic idea for energy saving, power saving, all those kinds of things. Also as well, you've got the option to restart from this section, but we're gonna just go back in, so we'll exit there. So this is the main screen. So the default apps that are installed, you've got the Firefox, Netflix, ADM, which is the ASUSTOR disk management system. You've got Chrome, so you can just use it as a web browser. Chromium as well. You've also got YouTube. I think I added that myself. I can't remember. I think I possibly did. Amazon Music was added as an app, as was Prime Video. But essentially, all these are kind of shortcuts to web browsers. So if you've got a Prime account or Netflix account, you can just set it up so it goes into that. If you click onto the settings cog in this top corner, you go into the settings. So you've got the general. So you've got display. What is actually displayed on the front screen, so you can actually configure specific accounts. Now I've set this up as my own account, so it automatically logs in as me every time it's turned on, but for security purposes, if you wanted to, you can change that altogether so it logs into like a guest account or a kind of a limited access account, so people can't get in and just do crazy stuff with it. Very, very flexible. Again, you can choose what is displayed on the screen. If you go into resolution, you can choose the resolution of your monitor. You've got overscan options for older TVs or TVs that don't display correctly. So if they're slightly cropped or they're outside of the refresh range, you can reduce the screen a little bit. Also audio, you can choose for HDMI. Default application, this could be quite handy. So again, if you want to change it, it's set as standard for the ASUSTOR portal. You can go through, so say for instance, Prime Video UK, you could set it to run as that. Amazon Music, YouTube, basically anything which is on the desktop, you can get it to default load into that straight away, which is potentially quite handy. So again, yeah, straight into ADM, ASUSTOR portal, whichever you choose. Also, you've got option for a screensaver, so as it would with like an Amazon device, Fire Stick, that kind of thing, or even just a laptop PC, you can set it so there's a screensaver and you can choose various screensavers. I've set it so that it just shows the system date, which is absolutely fine, and you've got obviously selection there, you can choose how long, and also you've got the option for language as well. So a little bit limited there on options, what you can do, but I think pretty much all the major ones are covered. So you can choose again, you can have all apps, video apps or social apps, so you can set up kind of individual schemes. Let's go into ADM. So this is the kind of the main control panel. And if we load that up, it doesn't take very long at all. Again, this is a quad-core Celeron processor, 2 GHz, 2.7 GHz boost speeds, and backed up with that 4 GB of RAM actually does fly. You could use this as a standalone PC quite easily, using things like VMware or Dockers, that sort of thing. You could easily set up a Hyper-V or some kind of virtual machine. You could, if you wanted to, even install Windows 10 as a virtual machine. So if you want to use this as a Windows 10 machine running natively on that hardware, then you actually could do quite easily. Also, the same goes for that. You could set up a Hackintosh or all those kinds of things. Really, with virtual machines, the limits are pretty much endless, depending on how much RAM you want to put in the machine and how fast you want the experience to be. So as you go, first of all, you get welcome to ASUSTOR Data Master, which you can go through. You can actually disable that so it doesn't come up every time. And that just goes through telling you about various features. So on this part of the desktop, you've got your logged in user. You've also got a performance monitor as well, which a lot of us like to see. So you've got the CPU, memory usage, etc., how many online users. Now, you can actually get a crazy amount of users on this thing. I think there's up to 4,000 connections at one time, over 512 groups. It's an absolutely insane amount of flexibility there. I would imagine most people are going to be using slightly less than that, but certainly the potential is there. You've got the storage manager here, so it's showing the individual volumes, so volume 1 and volume 2, so volume 1 being our RAID and volume 2 being our spare storage. There have been a couple of reviews of this already that I've seen, and at the time of their reviews, I don't think the software was actually updated, so the NVMe storage could actually be used as storage. It was purely caching only. So by having that extra flexibility now to use it actually as storage if you want to, I think it's a really, really good idea. So you've got access control, so if you're setting up access for various users, you can go into all that kind of stuff. You've got admin accounts and guest accounts, all that kind of stuff. You can configure there, do whatever you want to. There's Activity Monitor that we've seen already. App Central, so if you go into App Central, this is all of the apps which are available for the NAS. So you can go through, have a look what is applicable to you. There's various ones options, latest apps, you've got ASUSTOR apps, top apps. There's various different things like categories. You can choose all apps. And yeah, there's tons and tons of options. You've got everything from antivirus through to web servers, email clients. So tons and tons of apps to choose from. ASUSTOR have got their own kind of pre-baked apps. There's ASUSTOR Live, which you can use for actually streaming to various sources. So if you're maybe a content creator and you want to stream to things like YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, etc., you can do that all in one go without having to use something like Restream, and you don't need to pay any money for it. It's built into the unit. It is a free app, so you can just use it, configure it, and then you can stream to all those different places all in one go. And also you can record what you're actually streaming onto your NAS as well. So then if you wanted to maybe edit the footage after to make smaller cutaways or segments of videos, you can do all that through there as well also. So other options, you've got online help, so there's like an online help manual. You've got backup and restore, so again, all those kind of usual things that you expect a NAS to be used for. So backing up your PCs, backing up your mobile phone, backing up pictures, all those kinds of things, and also to restore. External devices, you've got options for as well. So you can actually plug in a crazy amount of USB devices on this. You can plug in things like UPS, which are controlled by USB, so if there is a power outage, the UPS can actually trigger a automated shutdown so you don't lose any data. Also, you can plug in things like Wi-Fi adapters, you can plug in keyboard and mouse, obviously, as we've done with this Logitech one. Also, things like hard drives, additional standalone drives, Bluetooth adapters, optical drives. There's loads and loads of options. As you'd expect, you've got a file explorer, so you can go through and check out all the files, all your shares, all that kind of stuff, and make all the configurations you want to there. Essentially, this interface is pretty much the same as what you'd see if you were accessing this from a web browser. For some people, they may find it easier to actually do everything from here, from this interface. Maybe if you've got this in an office and you've just got this tucked away somewhere secure, you can have a monitor and a keyboard and mouse next to it so you can make any configuration changes, or your administrator can do any updates, add new users, all that kind of stuff, and kind of try and keep people away from it itself. Or alternatively, you can just have this hidden away somewhere, or even on your desktop, and just access it through a web browser. You don't have to use it through a separate monitor. You can do it all through a web interface. So you've got services, so you can create services or make services. So you've got Windows services for networking, you've got Mac services, all those other kinds of things on there. A lot of stuff on there that I literally do not understand. But that is the beauty of this thing. It is so powerful. There's so many things that you can actually get involved into. But also, on the flip side, you don't have to. You can just set it up, do the one-touch setup, go through. I'm not going to show you the setup on this particular video because obviously for personal security reasons and all that kind of stuff, you can actually, if you go over to the ASUSTOR site, there is a virtual machine of this NAS. So if you want to try it out for yourself and see how it works and see if you can kind of get your head around how all the interface works, you can just go to the site. Again, I'll put some links in the video description. So you can actually try it out for yourself, see how it works. Obviously, you can't go storing crazy amounts of data on there. It is only a virtual machine version of this, but it'll certainly give you a really good taster of how it all works. So next we've got the storage manager. So this is, most people probably recognize this kind of layout, and you can, if you want to, you can make this full screen. So as you can see, as I said before, we've got volume 1, which is our RAID level 1, so drives 1 and 2. And then on volume 2, we've just got drive 1, which is our NVMe SSD. So again, you can see this all clearly laid out, so you can see there's the drives there. They are separated, so again, you cannot kind of aggregate these drives into a larger RAID 5. It is only RAID 0 or RAID 1 that you can use on these. And again, you can use the M.2 for either caching or for physical storage, which yeah, is really, really cool. So you can go in and change things, you can look at the volumes, how much usage. As you can see, this is virtually unused at the moment. And you can look at other devices, look at the drives, look into the individual status of them. It does also support those cool things like the Seagate IronWolf drive monitoring and all that kind of stuff. And also you can get information on the drives such as temperatures, usage. At the moment, the Toshiba drive which is in there is running at 33 degrees C, which I think is absolutely fine and is exactly where I'd expect to see it. Certainly my other NAS, which is in the other room, which is a little bit cooler, generally around about the same sort of figure, 32, 33, maybe 34 degrees. Obviously when you're doing large data transfers, it will start to generate a little bit of heat, but normally in most kind of semi-idle conditions, that is about the right temperature. Also, you've got smart info as well, so you can see if the drive is on its way to failure. But even if it is on its way to failure, it isn't a problem because obviously you've got RAID, so you've got a backup of the drives, which is essentially why you're buying a NAS. You've got system information, easy sync manager, and you've got your snapshot center. So this supports BTRFS, which is quite a new file system, which enables you to take snapshots. So you can take a snapshot of a volume on the drive, a PC from a backup, all those kinds of things. You can just take really nice quick snapshots, and you can refer back to those very, very quickly. So say for instance, somebody comes in to your NAS, they've got admin rights and they do something, they change something, and it causes a little bit of trouble with the system. You can just use your snapshot and roll back to a previous known good point, very much like how system restore works within a Windows environment. And at the bottom you've got the ASUSTOR portal, so that gives you information about what you can do. Again, pretty much configuring what we did on the front screen, but just in this kind of web interface. Okay, so now we're back on the desktop, so I'll give you a quick look at how these apps actually work. Now previously I did realise when I was actually trying to open up these apps and actually look through the internal apps that were available on here, I had my LAN cable plugged into the wrong connection. Now I do have this set up with static IP addresses and configured for my own use, but because I'm using it here, I didn't plug it in correctly, so that is why the icons weren't loading properly. So if we go into Prime Video, this should load very quickly, and there we go. So there's Prime Video, and as you would do normally, you can just click on a video that you want to watch, click play, and yeah, enjoy yourself. You can watch it full screen, so as you would with a Fire Stick, that kind of thing, you can watch it all full screen. And the same goes for any of ASUSTOR's own apps as well. There's tons and tons of apps they do for media creation, for media consumption, for streaming, all those kinds of things. Also, there's their photo app as well, so you can use their photo app to synchronize your photos from your mobile devices, from your PCs, and have it all in one place, both backed up and also able to use their AI as well. So you can go to AI and do modifications to pictures, group them, all those kinds of things that you expect to see. Good thing about this is the ASUSTOR ecosystem is always going to be one of those things which is going to grow. So it's going to continually evolve as there's updates. That is one thing, they do update their operating system quite regularly. So as there's new features become available, you will get them pretty quickly. Also with the apps as well, the apps also will update themselves kind of in the background. So as a new version comes out, if an updated version is available, it will update in the background without any user intervention. It'll just get on and do what it needs to do. And as you can see now, possibly from the full screen version, it does say in the top where it says ASUSTOR, it now says the server name, which is media, and the IP address, which it didn't show before because I had it plugged into the wrong jack. Rookie mistake. So I think that's pretty much it for what we can show you. About a brief look around. Again, if you want to have a real deep dive into what can be done in all the apps, etc., do go over to the ASUSTOR portal and you can play around with their virtual machine, see what works for you, look at the configuration options. For me personally, I've been looking around. I am no expert on NAS by any means, but I certainly am interested in looking around for deals and bargains. And to get something of this level of hardware and the flexibility of all the mounting options for NVMe drives, also hard drives, the whole package itself is fantastic and really, really good value for money. Now, some people may think £400, £450, maybe up to £500, depending on when you're watching this video, may seem like a lot. But if you take into comparison that this, not only is it a NAS, but also potentially it could be a workstation PC or just a media consumption PC, how much would you consider spending on a media center PC to go underneath your TV? Would you be looking at £300, maybe £400 for the PC itself to get it quiet and to do what you needed to do? Obviously, you will have slightly more flexibility on a PC, but the point I'm making is this is all baked into one unit. It uses one power supply, nice and fast, 4K output options, nice and easy to use with pretty much any keyboard and mouse setup if you want to, cordless devices, all that kind of stuff. To have two PCs effectively in the space of smaller than a shoebox, I think it's fantastic. And again, great value for money. And that worried me, but the screensaver's just kicked in. You can see there's a screensaver with a time and date, which you can configure as we said earlier. So I've been rabbiting on way too much. Like I said before, if you want to find any more about this, then please do look in the video description below. I'll put all the links I can there. If you've got any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. If you want a little bit more in-depth chat about it, feel free to join our Discord. Links for that will be in the video description as well. And if there's anything specific you want me to do or try on it, such as maybe a Protainer or a Docker or a virtual machine, that kind of thing, you want to know how it runs, then yeah, get in touch and I'll do what I can for you. So that's going to wrap this one up. This has been the Asustor Lockerstor 2. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.